Hey, real quick, I have a question for you before we talk about anything else. How many Saturdays do you think you have with your children before they reach the age of 18? Give that some thought for a second. And let's think about the math. If your child is 5 or 6 years old, you have approximately 678 Saturdays left with your child. If they're 10, 9 or 10, you have about 420 to 390. And if they are 15 or 16, 15, you ever have about 156 to 152 Saturdays left with your children or child before they turn 18. Do you know that the vast majority of young youth athletes will quit and give up between 13 and 14 because they're burnt out or they just don't seem to be having any fun anymore? I want you to keep watching over the next 5 to 10 minutes because I want to share some information with you that we can put some perspective into this crazy era of youth sports that really it really took some time for me to learn this as a parent. My sons are now 33 and 35, and I have grandchildren. And so this was a topic that we brought up the other day, and I thought I would share that with you to kind of add some perspective to childhood. Going to take you back a few years of your life, and I want you to think about when your children were babies. Don't blink. All of a sudden, they're walking. Blink again, and it's almost time for their first day of school. And oh my gosh, you blink again, and they're graduating high school and getting ready to go to college. It does go by that quick. Today is the most treasured possession that you can have. And we as parents, sometime often, find ourselves wishing time away to get to certain physical or athletic thresholds that we think all of the glory awaits us. And I'm not here to scare you. I'm really just trying to give you a wake up call because I wish I had gotten this wake up call from a parent or a friend or a trusted mentor. And I think it's time for me to kind of put some perspective and give some back to you if you're a parent watching me today. I want to make sure that you understand that most adults spend their, when their children are very young, we kind of try to get overly consumed with the childhood dream, the athletics, the high school varsity, the college scholarships, and even sometimes professional sports. And we often will tell ourselves, oh, I'm going to have time to do things when the kids are grown up. I'm going to have lots of time. We're going to have time to do things together. Things like I'll have the money when the house is paid off, or I'll have more money when I get a promotion, or we'll have more savings when the kids are older and we're not doing all these youth sports. And then we'll kind of make some time for each other. We'll kind of take vacations. We'll kind of hang out as husband and wife. Maybe we'll take some trips. Maybe we'll take a cruise. One of the things that I often find a lot of parents thinking about is this really worth it? And the brutal truth is that nobody really wants to say this part out loud, but I'm going to say it out loud. Childhood is not a prologue. It's not a something we can go back and touch and go back and feel. It's the shortest, most unpredictable chapter of your entire life as a parent, as well as for your children. So let me give you a couple of gut punches right to the heart. And I want you to understand that, all of those youth sport events and you're running around and you're chasing practices and lessons, are they really all worth it? And I really want you to think like, am I giving up my Saturdays and my Sundays? What am I giving them up for? Because I'll never get them back. And what's the end result? What's the end return? And I was talking to a dad a few weeks ago, someone that had called me about youth baseball, and their son had just turned 18, and he's a senior in high school. He's getting ready to graduate. And I said, "Well, what's your, biggest sense of pride and what's your biggest regret?" And he said, "Huh, my biggest regret." He goes, "I always thought I would have more time." He said, "I really thought um, that there would come a time where we'd be able to take a deep breath. But now I'm starting to see my son is 18, asks for the keys, takes his girlfriend out, and college is around the corner, and he's going to be leaving the house. We're going to be empty nesters pretty soon." And then I talked to an older adult who's a grandparent who is working with his grandchildren, two grandsons. And I said, "What's your biggest regret as a grandparent?" Because I'm a grandparent. So I wanted to ask him and kind of get some perspective of the grandparent thing. And he said, "The one thing I don't regret is the house I didn't buy or the trips I didn't take." He says, "I think I spent too much time rushing through when my children were young, the bedtime stories, the little, out in the backyard making s'mores with a little fire in the backyard, just the simple things. I think I rushed through those or didn't spend enough time doing those. And so being a grandparent kind of gives you a reprieve and you should take advantage of it. Don't rush through those small, simple moments with your grandchildren." And when he said that, it really hit me in a very profound way. And I found myself thinking, this would be a really good topic for a video. We chase destinations all the time, whether it's youth sports or business, corporate world. Could be weight loss. I can't wait over the next 6 months. I want to lose weight. My profession, I want to get a promotion and I can't wait to have 3 more years of experience and then I'll be able to, get that promotion. And we're always thinking what the excitement of what lies ahead while not being settled in what is actually happening in our now, in our today. And as we begin to have children and they're playing youth sports, we're sprinting towards this imaginary finish line of, high school and then into college and then professional. And for the vast majority, and I'm talking about 99% of all youth athletes. They never play beyond high school or college. But yet here we are between the ages of 6 and 18 or 19, and we're chasing, youth sports. And what I want you to understand is our children grow up looking at their life through a rearview mirror. And what are they taking the time to look back on? What are they cherishing in that rearview mirror? Uh, you know, the days may seem long for our children and for us as parents, but the years are so short. They're so quick. And I really want to add some insight to that as dads. The years don't warn us before they leave. My children, I look at pictures when they were 6 and when they were 8, simple times, youth soccer and relationships with kids and wiffle ball games in the backyard. And the part of that memory that keeps me up at night is we've turned childhood play into literally a second full-time job. And is it for them? Is it for us? What's the rationale? Gone are your Saturdays and Sundays. We lose Friday nights to practices and lessons, and the weekends are for doubleheaders. And we're playing two sports: youth soccer in the morning, youth baseball in the afternoon, and we're sacrificing family vacations that are built around trips to Orlando or Cooperstown or some other baseball destinations. Our nights during the weeks are spent with private practices for travel organizations, lessons, speed and agility drills. And I'm absolutely a huge proponent of youth sports, always have been. They were a large part of my life and a large part of my children's life. But I began to recognize, especially with my youngest son, that we were chasing this ghost and we were giving away quality time together. And I get it. A lot of children are very intense and they're very competitive, and you don't think local sports is offering enough. It's been that way for decades, almost a century. But now suddenly the with the advent of technology, we all think like we are doing things better. We are doing things more efficiently and obviously more effectively. And nothing could be further from the truth. Some of my kids' best memories came from moments where they played with their friends in the backyard or local pickup games, or they played local little league, or they played for their local high school. It wasn't on the fields across the country and all the road trips and things like that. So if we're being brutally honest, and we understand a lot of children stop playing sports competitively organized at that middle school age group. You know, again, I ask you, is it really worth all of the trade off with all of these various endeavors that take time away from our families? They take time away from our children. And I want you to understand that whether it's hockey, youth hockey, 6 a.m. ice hockey games, four or $500 tournaments, gate fees, concession stand food, all of these things. What are we really gaining from all of that? What's the end game? You know, I know when I talk to families and they spend every single weekend from the ages of 8, whether it's through USSSA or Perfect Game now has youth leagues, and what are we getting? We're getting a lot of adults screaming at children. We're getting a lot of people with folding chairs and red Solo cups, and they're yelling, at our children. They're more competitive in some cases than our children are. We spend thousands of dollars as parents so that our children can get seen. But by who and when? We aren't allowed as parents, our children cannot talk to college coaches until they're almost 16 or 17. So is it really critical at 6 to 15 or to really be doing all of this crazy running around and chasing? When in reality, we're giving and sacrificing our Saturdays and Sundays with our children to things that won't have any meaning or significance when they are leaving us and going off to college. We are spending irreplaceable currency. Time is a currency. The Saturdays, the Sundays, the car rides to and from, the hotels, the fast food, all of that, all with the hope that we're getting a scholarship for a sport, when in reality, I think the number is less than 5% of high school athletes get some sort of athletic scholarship that doesn't take into account academic scholarships. So, if all of these people are being told or led to believe that the pathway to success for high school varsity athletics and obviously college athletics is playing youth travel sports, is that necessarily true? I mean, I've talked to athletes now, especially parents, and they have tears in their eyes because their children have lost that competitive fire, that spirit, that passion, that grit for the sport, and they end up asking themselves, "Did I have a play a part in that? Did I play a role in that?" As a parent, I've coached every team from my son's t-ball teams all the way up and through college. I was a college head coach, and I loved spending time with my children. My children didn't play travel sports until my youngest was 15 or 16. And they look back on their childhood and their relationships and their friendships with great enthusiasm. And I really want you to understand athletic competition, it definitely plays a positive role in development of children. It builds competitiveness, resiliency, teamwork, camaraderie, relationships, but that can be accomplished locally as well. And there has to be a time that fits for you as a family, because you have to look at your calendar as that's currency. When you look at a calendar, it's almost like a savings account book that you look into. And all of those days that might seem years and years away, that's currency. And I don't want you to think of your schedule as anything other than your time. It's valuable. So before you sign up for youth travel, athletics, baseball, softball, I need you to ask yourself a couple of questions. If my student athlete never gets a dollar of scholarship money, were the weekends still worth it? In other words, if we don't get any scholarship, or if we don't play varsity athletics, are these events that we're chasing and running around to, and all the lessons and practices, and are they worth it? In 10 years from now, are they going to say to you, I'm so glad we spent every single weekend for 10 years at the tournaments, at the ballparks, at the practices? Are they going to look back, or are they going to say, hey, mom, hey, dad, I wish we had more days that we, hung out, or I was home riding my bike and playing in the backyard or playing with my buddies, just being at home, just being a kid. Now, you don't have to tell your children to go quit sports tomorrow or youth baseball tomorrow, because you don't have to want to let your children think like, okay, we gotta quit because this isn't fitting our schedule. But I do want you to think choosing organized local leagues when they're 8 and saying no to the extra tournaments and saying no to the uber elite competitive events, um, is really something you need to give pause to. Protect those few sacred weekends that you have, you know, with your children. If you only have 400 or 500 left, do you want to give them all away, chasing a mirage, or do you really want to kind of be able to look back and have a scrapbook in life, whether it's in your mind, your phone, or your desktop, or photo albums, where you look back and you say, "Wow, that really was a great time. We had some fun." And I want you to think about protecting your weekends, creating time. Um, Look at your calendar every year and make sure you're blocking off weekends. Make sure you're blocking off. Maybe it's month. Maybe it's the month of August where you're blocking it off, and it's just kids being kids. You're going on the vacation, and you're not really worried about the youth sports. Because whether I want you to understand, sometimes just whether you're making pancakes on a Saturday night with the kids, or you're just, watching a television show, or you're playing a board game or something like that, where you're keeping it simple, sometimes that will have more significance on the growth, maturity of your children over and above sports. The one thing rule, like the one thing rule, that was a big deal in our house. Every single day, do one thing that matters for your children. Like I used to put it in a hat, and I'd let my boys say, "Okay, what would you like to do today?" And they each got 5 pieces of paper, and they got to throw them in the hat, and they each got to pick one, and that's what we did that day, or that's what we did that weekend. I think when you come up with creative alternatives for kids that work in that capacity, I think you'll find that the kids will have more time. You know, you need to create on that calendar that I alluded to non-negotiable blockouts of time. Like this weekend is family time. This week in the summer is vacation time. Block those out. I promise you, you won't regret that. Nothing is worth sacrificing family time. Create some annual anchor events, whether it's a family trip that every year. One of my very good friends, his daughter just got married, and they got married at a place where every summer they rented a cottage, the entire family, and they went away for a week to 10 days as an entire family, 6 bedrooms, and they returned there to get married, his youngest daughter. And the stories they told were really, heartwarming. And so it's something like that that's really what I think the foundation for when children become adults, what they look back on and what they remember as being a part of the family. The miracle question that you have to begin to ask at the end of the day as parents: if you woke up tomorrow in a time far, far away, and you looked back, did everything that we did as a family really inspire, benefit my children and their childhood? Did I make it better? Did it were the mentors that we put in our children's life, did it make them better? Lastly, and this one's going to hurt the most, one day, probably sooner than you think, and this has hit me more and more over the last 4 or 5 years. Your little boy or little girl, they're going to stop reaching their hand up to cross the street into your hand. They're going to stop asking you to, hey, dad, watch this, or hey, mom, watch me do that. And they're going to stop saying things like, hey, you're my best friend. I love you. And then the phone calls stop. And then the time they go to college. And I had a really interesting chat at the recent wedding I just alluded to. And my friend gave me this little piece of math nugget. After your children go off to college, for the rest of their life, meaning from, let's say, the age of 19 through your natural life, if you live to be 80, approximately 365 to, let's call it, 400 days. That's the total number of days that you will spend physically with your children for the rest of your life. Meaning they grow up, they're away at college, they move, they get their own life, they have their own spouse, they begin to have their own family. The cat's in the cradle, that famous song, comes true. And so what I want you to understand is someday those kids are going to become adults, and they're going to have their issues, and they're going to have their children, and they're going to have their time management that they're going to have to monitor. And unfortunately, sometimes for most of us, we're not seeing them as often or talking to them as often. Well, and because the clock just isn't slowing down for any of us, I thought I would take some time to share this dynamic with you, because when we talk about hitting lessons, pitching lessons, we talk about college recruiting, I don't think we talk enough about time. I don't think we talk enough about the dynamic of time. And I really hope that this resonated with you. And I hope you can leave a comment. Let me know how old your children are. Let me know where you're from. And is this the type of topic that you might want to hear more of? I hope this makes a difference for you as a family. I hope it makes a difference for you with regard to planning the rest of your child's childhood with regard to youth sports. Encourage you to subscribe. Really encourage you to share the channel with others. I really look forward to helping you in the future. Have a great holiday season, and I look forward to chatting with you again soon.